How's my hair? Yeah, it's there,
It's fine.
still there.
You've still got all your hair.
All right, that's good.
The Nikon FM3a was released in 2001 and produced until 2006, so it was discontinued not that long ago, really.
And by many people, it is considered to be the best film camera ever made, among all other brands, etc. So we both own the camera, so you decide who owns which camera. But we are here to take some shots in a beautiful place like this and also share our experiences. My first experience with Nikon cameras was actually not F100, which was my actual first camera that I bought, but it was FM3a. It was back in Soviet Russia, where I found a photographer who I approached in the gallery and said, I want to learn photography, can you teach me? So he actually said, why not? He was a news reporter and all this, and he gave me FM3a to photograph in his studio. 5-6 years later, I was in New York, I bought myself F100, and I was using F100 for a long, long time, and I love the camera. FM3a was being the pinnacle of the cameras. It was my first film series cameras. I was looking at FM2N, but I do like aperture priority too much sometimes. And I know we want to shoot all manual, but sometimes when you're doing street photography, and that's what the camera I generally use for all those snaps, I don't look at something perfect with this camera. I don't mind a little bit of motion blur. I don't mind to be slightly out of focus. I like to cheat a little bit. Aperture priority is the way to go for me. That's why I don't like flower photography. You have to lie on the soil in a white shirt.
It's great though.
Why would you ever do that?
Because I want to, that's why.
So you got 105 2.5 and it's a pre-AI which was converted
That's right.
to AI version. Now this lens is considered to be magical by a lot of people, as well as AI and AS version, because design is quite similar. Tell us why it's so magical, Becky.
It's incredibly sharp in the middle. It's one of those ideal portrait lenses, really, because the background is so buttery and it gives you this kind of aesthetic that you don't get from other lenses. Obviously, I'm not using it for portraiture because why would I? When I was a kid, I had compact point and shoot film cameras, but the FM2N was my first proper film camera, I would say. Came recommended to me when I started at Gray's. And I shot with the FM2N for a number of years, but the FM3a was the holy grail for me. It was the camera that I couldn't afford when I first started working, but I really wanted. It had aperture priority, which I only use once in a blue moon, but I like the idea of it. It had this fantastic metering system, which mimicked a lot of what digital cameras were able to do. It had exposure compensation, which you can still get around with cameras that don't have it. You can push and pull your film manually. You can exposure compensate by using your ISO dial. And I did that with the FM2N, but I loved having it all in this package. why you would recommend the FM3a over an FM or an FM2N to someone.
The main thing is the aperture priority more than anything else. So if you can't live without aperture priority and can't shoot manually, that's the answer really. But FM and FM2N are quite similar cameras. Original FM had sync speed of 1/25th of a second, that's with a flash, and maximum shutter speed of 2,000 of a second. And then FM2 and N version would have 200 of a second FM2, 250s of a second flash sync on an N version, and 4,000 of a second shutter speed. If you do want to shoot manually, it's not too difficult actually to shoot with those cameras. On FM3a, you just need to line up a shutter speed arrows, and FM and FM2N cameras, you have plus and minus LEDs. So as long as you set it to 0, that's what camera would consider to be perfect exposure. One thing I forgot to mention about FM3a and all FM series cameras, they're fully mechanical. So effectively, you can have your aperture priority with a battery in and meter in, but also in fully manual mode, you got all mechanical shutters without the battery. So if you're stuck somewhere in the North Pole, it will still fire. So Becky, why chrome over black?
I've always been a chrome camera person. I like the way it looks. My FM2N was chrome.
Yeah?
It doesn't show the wear quite as quickly either. Don, can you use pre-AI lenses on your FM3a?
No, unfortunately you can't. And the problem with that pre-eye glass, that rim is all around the lens. So this aperture coupler is made of plastic. So if you're trying to put a pre-eye glass on this camera, you can damage that.
Right.
So AI, AIS, or modified pre-eye lenses, which would have effectively this cutout along the rim, they would fit. But for more information, do check out Becky's video on is it AI, AIS, or pre-eye lens. What's cooking? What film are you using?
I'm going to use Portra 400.
All right,
Just
change your t-shirt ASAP then.
That's a good point, actually.
It's a false advertising.
The reason that I'm using Portra 400 is because there's some heavy-looking clouds over there, and I think we may, at some point, possibly see a bit of overcastness. So instead, I'm going to be prepared for all eventualities.
All right, Bex, so what focusing screen do you have?
Oh, that's a good question. I, as most of our viewers will know, use a B screen, which is completely plain. I don't get along with the K split screens at all.
Okay, what is the best focusing screen in your opinion for FM3a and FM series cameras?
For me, it has to be the B3. It's the brightest of them. The K3 is the brightest of the split screens, but I prefer to trust my eyes to focus than the focusing screen. If you're doing lots of architecture, having the split is very useful so you can line up your verticals, but quite often when you're in scenes like this and you can't differentiate the actual subject in the center of the frame, it's just too much of a faff. It takes too long.
Okay, so what would you change in FM3a?
Yeah, if I could change one thing, honestly, it would be the way that the meter is displayed, because with the FM3a, you've got your shutter speeds written on the side of the viewfinder. You've got a blue line to show you where your shutter speed is set, and then you've got a needle to show you whether or not you're correctly exposed. And when the needle lines up with the shutter speed, your exposure is correct. That is very difficult to see in low light situations.
So LEDs of FM and FM2Ns are better?
They're brighter, they're clearer, easier to see when you're in a difficult situation. The thing I don't like about them is you can't tell how off you are, because it's plus or minus. You can't sort of intentionally slightly under or overexpose as you can with this one. This is just tricky if you're shooting in the dark when you can't see your meter at all.
In conclusion, those are the reasons why we chose FM3a as our film camera. It's also considered a classic by many, many people, and I think our viewers will agree. However, if you're on the budget, and those prices are going up, have a look at FM series in general. They're cheap, FM1 and FM2. There's also FE and FE2 series, as well as FA cameras.
For general purpose photography, without autofocus, there isn't anything that the FM3a can't do. You can do double exposures, you can do exposure comp, you can push and pull your film to your heart's content. You've got a great metering system. I've never been let down by the metering system in this camera, and I rely on it very much. Can't say the same for other cameras I've used. Yeah. So I've never been disappointed. It's also small and light enough that you can pretty much take it with you anywhere.
Agreed. And if you're a digital shooter, that could be a nice second camera. Now, shooting film, if you haven't done so and you're shooting digitally, we'll teach you to decide if you want to take the shot or leave it. Film photography also teaches you exposure.
I would say that film photography also helps you to slow down a bit,
yeah,
and teach you the basic principles of photography, because you can't salvage it afterwards. You can't take a shot, look at the back and go, oh, that wasn't quite right. So it kind of enforces a discipline to a certain degree. Even when shooting an aperture priority, you still have to make conscious decisions about what your depth of field is and, you know, how you want to compose the scene. So give it a go.
Absolutely. After mastering this, digital photography will be a lot easier. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, give us a like and subscribe.
Yes, and if you found this video useful,
there's a super thanks button over there.
Let us know if you've shot with an FM3a or what film camera you're using, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. I guess we're going to walk into the sunset, but, you know.
Just wander off. The camera.
We just go over the cliff, you know.
The hills are alive with the sound of music. There you go. Julie Andrews, eat your heart out.